Welcome into the 615 Sessions podcast on this Thursday, August the 22nd. It is the last day that, at least for us as Titans media, the training camp practice will take place. Teresa Walker of the Associated Press is kind enough to join me after not a terribly hot day out on the practice field. We've been pretty lucky with the training camp weather, but for our part of things, Teresa, outside of the preseason game, this bad boy's done and dusted, and we're ready for the regular season.
It is. I mean, right now they wrap up Sunday. They play the Saints, get a little bit of a road atmosphere, hopefully, and the starters are going to get some playing time. So, work out some of the kinks and honestly, see some other faces. Forget us. They're at a point, especially the offense, where they're tired of looking at Tavonde Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons and the like. Now, we haven't seen a ton of L'Jarius Sneed or Chidobe Awuzie, who's working his way back. Quandre Diggs is getting some work here since his addition. But, we haven't really seen – I think that the offensive line is more than tired of seeing Jeffrey Simmons at this point. And if you saw that video clip last week of him tossing aside that Seattle Seahawks lineman, that's a big reason why. They're at a point where they know what's coming, and it's tough to stop Jeffrey Simmons. It just is. So now they get to go see the Saints, make cuts on Tuesday, and it's going to be interesting. Brian Callahan told us today that there's about 4 spots on this roster that are truly up for grabs as we go to this point of the season. And they make final cuts on Tuesday. And then because of how they finished last year, they're 7th in line for claiming spots off of the waiver wire. So if you make this roster, don't be celebrating, because they very well may make some changes, because as competitive as this roster has been and as competitive as camp has been, I mean, they've got the ability, should they choose to do it, to go get some more depth at offensive line, tackle. The surprise retirement of Sadiq Charles, I mean, let's face it, that hurts them and opens up the need for, even with NPF and Dylan Radins now being in the lead for that right side of the line and potentially anchoring it, guess what? They could see somebody they like, and it's like, we're going to go get this guy. So next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, there's some changes that will be happening as they set this roster.
It's always a fluid thing, right? Just because it's a roster cut day doesn't mean that that's a final roster by any stretch of the imagination. It's an initial 53, and it could change as soon as the following Tuesday, based on players that they might be trying to sneak through the waiver process and how they manipulate the roster math to try and protect some players who may get scooped up on waivers, who they're trying to see on their practice squad, or any number of variables that come into play. But on this last day of practice, Teresa, I talked about this week on the radio show yesterday when we were out there for the first day. And I said, the thing that I want to see in the last week of training camp practice is the offense have 2 good days, stack 2 good days in front of us. They may have had good days on a good day on Tuesday and had a good day on Wednesday, and that may be the 2 days, but like in front of us, in front of media, for all of us to witness, show me 2 days of consistently good offensive football. And that was not what today was. Levis certainly started slow with all this. I know the offense kind of picked things up later in the practice, but from your standpoint, what is a reasonable level of what's a reasonable level of discourse for this offense right now, with where we are ahead of the regular season and where we think they should be?
Well, there was a really nice pass, I think, to Ridley that looked really nice. But you're right. There was a 2-minute drill where there was a lot of throwaways, a lot of pressure. And, seeing that consistency, we haven't. But Brian Callahan talked to us yesterday and said that he's very happy with where Will Levis is with footwork, accuracy, and those kind of things. And I think that we'll see this. And I mean, here's the thing. Part of the piece is it's still very vanilla in a way. Mm-hmm. I mean, they do some things at walkthroughs and other things that we don't get to see, which, it's training camp. We see so much, but we're seeing puzzle pieces. And again, I go back to this. Denard Wilson was brought in to run an attacking defense, and we've seen that on the field. We've seen them getting after, putting pressure, and making that offensive line work. And that offensive line has been a work in progress on the right side. And, Nicholas Petit-Frere has just really kind of gotten back. He's still working off some rust, working with Bill Callahan, Dylan Radins because of the retirement of Charles. So I take that with a little bit of a, and on Sunday, I asked, Callahan, it's like 3 weeks from today, you're starting the season in Chicago. Where is this team at? And he said that it'll take maybe a month into the season for them to really put everything together. So while training camp is ending, and we've got a now almost 2-week break before the season starts. Next week they'll start doing some stuff preparing for Chicago, but it's almost like you would think you would want ideally to have everything in place, know exactly what this is going to look like, have seen big shots. We've seen chemistry between Levis and Ridley. We've seen, Traylon Burks. How many times, gosh, just the last few days, oh my gosh, he went inside. He was grabbing at the cramps. He landed awkwardly, left early. As Callahan said today, he's a big body. When he goes up in the air and comes down, it's going to hurt for a minute. He's going to need a second to shake that off. So that's part, we've seen him consistently be there through camp. Good news, DeAndre Hopkins could be back for the opener. So, I think that, and Tyler Boyd was held out against the Seahawks because he had a bruised foot and they wanted to be cautious. So I just don't think we've seen everything that this offense has to show. And I think that part of that is not tipping the hand. And I think that they've been putting it in pieces so that we don't see the whole thing. I talked to Tyler Boyd yesterday, and one of the reasons he wanted to come here, besides the reuniting with Brian Callahan in this offense, is because of the attraction of Will Levis and what a quarterback like Levis can do in this offense. He saw what Callahan did with Browning when Burrow went down in Cincinnati, and he's watched film of Levis, and he saw a guy that he thinks can absolutely flourish in this offense. So for me, that's what I need to hear. Callahan says that Tony Pollard, Tyjae Spears are both great pass protectors. We've seen them be able to catch and run with the ball. So that brings disguisability that this offense has not had in years. How many times when they take Dion Lewis out there and whoever they brought in behind him, it's like you knew. It's like, I'm sorry, Helen Keller could tell that they were going to try and throw a screen on third down. It was run, pass, and too often it was a screen pass. And I could have made some of those tackles, let's be honest. So there's an element to the offense that we're going to see that I don't think we've truly seen yet this preseason. And that's what I'm looking forward to seeing the starters get some playing time and try to see if they can show some chemistry on Sunday in New Orleans. But I'm really waiting for, it almost feels like we're going to have the veil taken off once they take the field in Chicago.
Yeah. I hope Dennis Allen plays the starters in New Orleans. We'll see whether the Saints end up reciprocating that, because right now Callahan is saying the starters are scheduled to get 2 or 3-ish series, depending on how this situation plays out. If you're just now joining us, Teresa Walker, the great Teresa Walker, the Hall of Famer, just like it says above her, of the Associated Press, is here with us after the final day of Titans training camp practice on the 615 Sessions podcast. The podcast is made possible by Zen Sports. Download the app, plug in the promo code ATOZTN, get up to $100 on your no danger first wager. Preseason football, we're talking about it. If you're a sicko and you bet preseason football, then Zen Sports is for you. Promo code ATOZTN. Terms and conditions do apply. Gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. Must be 21 plus in the state of Tennessee to bet. A couple of people echoing your sentiments, Teresa, in the live stream chat that we've had. It's still a new offense. There's going to be struggles and growing pains. Jordan Eves with a comment that makes me laugh here. Awfully self-righteous to think you're important enough for them to perform in front of you. Well, yeah, their job is to perform in front of us, in front of the coaching staff, in front of their teammates. Doesn't matter what day it is. We're out there to take in what we see, analyze it, and comment on it. And if they don't perform in front of us, it doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to perform at all, but they're still out there to perform on a day-to-day basis. And we're out there too. And also, are you new to the podcast? You think this is the first time that I've been self-righteous or self-important about anything? That's the dumbest comment I think I've seen today. That's just lacking clear. If you want to talk about things that you're lacking self-awareness, clearly and obviously there.
I know. I mean, how many times have I tried to prick your ego over the years? But we do see what they're trying to put in, and that's the thing. That's why we are able to try to judge it. And now some things they will hide. I mean, the home run throwback that set up the Music City Miracle play, that was never practiced in front of media. It was always a Saturday kind of thing, right? So, some special stuff, but they are installing the offense and the defense, the 2-minute drill, third down, red zone periods. They are installing those in front of us. And we can see when, I think it was Chance Campbell or Gibby today had their hands on what should have been an interception in a 2-minute drill. So we've seen the offense have struggles, and that's the problem. I'm just very curious to see what happens when DeAndre Hopkins is back out there, and we see the order more of what they want to have on the field, because we've seen the starting lineups, the projected depth charts that they've had in the preseason game notes. We see what they want to be doing. We haven't seen that group on the field since DeAndre Hopkins hurt his knee early in camp. So I think that has a bit of a trickle effect. And I think that, I do think that they're still working. I mean, Will Levis is going into his second season with a brand new coach, a brand new offense, and there's a learning curve, and that is a part of it. So, that's part, the offense is struggling. Guess what? It's new. He's learning, and he's literally learning on the job, and the clock is going to start ticking a lot louder here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, my the way that I talked about it on the radio show today is training camp is like college, right? And you don't get the kind of experience that you need to perform your job at a high level until you get into the real world, until you get to those regular season games, and you start to see that implemented, that proof of concept, right? You grow and you develop, you improve your skill because of the repetition. And college is just trying to, or training camp is like college is trying to prepare you for the real world that is the NFL regular season. Now, Levis has, of course, had real world NFL regular season experience. In fact, whether or not it was a pleasant experience, I'm sure many Titans fans were dissatisfied with, despite elevating the team. I mean, he went 3-6, right? And there's a million different reasons why that team struggled. We've been over them ad nauseum. We don't need to relitigate them here. But what I want to see out of him, Teresa, on Sunday is I want to see him check it down. I don't need to see him hunt the big play. I don't need to see him to throw it to, every spot on the field, because I know he can make that throw. I need to see the thing that I don't know whether he can do or not, which is play within the system, play with it with timing, play with rhythm, and take what the defense presents to you, which is what he did in the first preseason game. What was he? 3 of 4 or 4 or 5 for 35 yards and the rushing touchdown. Like, I need to see him live to play another down. I need to see him extend drives. And if they work a shot play in and they connect on it, great. But that's not the most important thing to me, even though those are the highlight type of plays that people are excited about Levis for. He needs to play, he's in Joe Burrow's offense, essentially. He needs to play more like Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow isn't winging it 80 yards down the field. He's paper cutting you to death and running one of the most efficient offenses in football.
Absolutely. I mean, we know that he's got a strong arm. I mean, with the numbers that he put up last year, he ranked among the best in the NFL in yards per completion. That's not a question. And he talked about that on a Wednesday, that idea of taking the play that's there. And I completely agree with you. That's what we do need to see out of him, and play smart. That rushing touchdown. I was in France at the Olympics, but I saw the highlights, and and I had Jake Locker flashbacks. You don't need heroism out of your quarterback. You don't need him to go out there and get banged up. You want to see him live to play the next play. And he kind of referenced that of, not getting the shot play, seeing the progressions that are there, working his way through those things. And that's the thing about playing NFL quarterback, especially in this system. The paper cuts. Yeah. I mean, I don't need to remind Titan fans about what that looks like. They've seen it up close and personal. And you need your quarterback to just go out there and execute and do the things that he's being asked to do. And if he does that, Tyler Boyd thinks he'll be one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL if he does what this offense is asking him to do. And it is, you don't have to be throwing deep every time. Take the check down, take the slant, take the guy it's open in the flat, move the ball, move the chains, keep the team, the offense on the field, which they so often did not do last year.
Before we wrap up here, Teresa, and you're not going to New Orleans, obviously. I don't think there's many of us going to New Orleans, although they are making it well worth our time, at least, to have the starters play as much as they expect to play. On Sunday. I'll be down there and covering the game. I'm roster cut day is Tuesday. We won't have a podcast before then, obviously. Kyle Phillips, Rashad Weaver, and let's focus on those two. Would either of us be surprised if those two players who've been here for a while, and one of them in a contract year in Weaver, would either of us be surprised if those two players got cut?
I don't think Weaver gets cut just now. Two things. Arden Key, kind of pulled a hammy a teeny bit yesterday. Callahan said it's not expected to, be much of an issue at all. But Rashad Weaver has kind of flashed here. He flashed in the preseason game on Saturday night. You could see him making some plays and getting pressure, and he did that again the last couple of days, watching him getting a chance with the ones with Key out. So, but Phillips has just had a hard time staying healthy. And right now you've got a Jaquan Jackson who's a rookie. Karis Jackson is another guy who I think is in trouble because, again, availability is a huge part of it. And, with Weaver was talking about this with somebody on the sideline today that, just finding the buttons, and Denard Wilson seems to be finding the buttons to help Rashad Weaver unlock his potential. And he's under a rookie year, and they don't have a ton of depth at that outside backer spot. So I think that's one thing that absolutely helps him get through cuts. Now, that said, again, the caution, the waiver wire, when people, there's going to be a ton of players hitting the wire Tuesday afternoon, and they might see some people that could be an upgrade. That's where I won't be surprised. I do think he's in those last four spots on the roster, trying to show what he can do, what can he be, and bring to the table.
She is the great Teresa Walker. You can follow her on Twitter at Teresa M. Walker. Of course, you can read everything that she writes at apnews.com. T, glad you're back stateside. I'm so happy that the Olympics are over for your sake, because I know that had to have been exhausting. And I mean, you were over there for what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
A month. I made the mistake of taking a long weekend in Barcelona beforehand, thinking, hey, I got the free trip. Unfortunately, I did the tourist thing, did lots of touristing, and then went straight into 3 straight weeks of lots and lots of long hours and work. So it's glamorous, but yes, I'm very glad it's over.
Well, we're glad to have you back. And of course, great Titans coverage, Preds coverage, Grizzlies coverage, whatever you have, Teresa Walker. As long as it's in the state of Tennessee, Teresa Walker, as you covered, or in Olympics, because she does that so well too. Your 7th Olympics. Congratulations on that. Seriously, Teresa. I know you get plenty of congratulations, and I know you don't need it from me, but that is badass. That's really, really cool for you. And I know that's the kind of things that a lot of journalists work their whole lives to get to do. And for you to have done 7 Olympics is crazy.
It is. I never dreamed. I am an Olympics fan. Grew up watching the Olympics, 1980 Winter Games, my first big memories. Miracle on Ice, and to have done 7 and now 3 straight summer games, helping with women's basketball. and watching that incredible streak that, I mean, now the women get to play on a home court in LA in 28. I don't know if I'll be there. I'm not looking ahead. I'm not even looking at the winter games in Italy in 26. I'm just going to look forward to NFL season, Predators, Grizzlies. It's all coming.
Well, we know that she's got it covered. Whatever it is, she's got it covered. Teresa Walker, thank you for your time.
My pleasure, Bud.
All right, that's going to do it for us. I'll catch you guys on prime time tonight. We'll have more practice observations. Bert?